This is reposted.
All right, we are joined this week by our good friend Brandon Doble, who makes his monthly appearance on the Reposted podcast. As you remember, Brandon is an Enneagram 8. He is the founder and sole proprietor of How I Got That Way, the podcast, which, by the way, I make a special appearance on a 5'10" white guy episode. I do need to throw this in before we get started. Brandon Keller, he sent me a text on my fake Facebook birthday. It was very meaningful that he didn't know that August 2nd is my fake birthday. It was very heartfelt. He sent me a message and didn't realize that was my fake birthday. So thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, well, I try to be a thoughtful guy. I have a fake Facebook birthday too. Do you, Andrew?
No. To give context, these people have fake birthdays to see who their true friends are. And so if you reach out to them on their birthday, they give you a hard time.
Do you know the best part is I have a birthday calendar with Larry's actual birthday on it, but I just never pay attention to it. Yeah, it's just the way it is.
I could talk about fake birthdays throughout the entire podcast, but we need to move on to today's quote, Brandon, which we will start with you. It comes from Henry David Thoreau, which he said, "It is never too late to give up your prejudices." Brandon, here's my questions. Here's how I'd like to start. Is it okay to be prejudiced?
Well, I think that's a bizarre question. That makes no sense. I mean, do we prejudge? Well, of course. I mean, we're born prejudging. We look at, why some people like dogs, some people like cats. That cat's awful. It's going to be terrible. It's going to scratch me. It's prejudging. That's prejudice.
I don't think that's really a fair question, because I think the word prejudice has, it's loaded. I mean, the actual definition is a preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. And so if you use the word right now, it means racist or bigoted, but I think preconceived opinion is not necessarily bad if you're willing to give up your prejudice by being open-minded. Sorry, I cut you off on your thought, but Larry.
No. I think you did a very good job of Larry befuddled me as usual. I love that you guys chose my least favorite transcendentalist, Mr. Thoreau, who was like, I'm going to go live in a cabin a mile away from my mom's house and go there for Sunday dinner every week. Dude never lived out in the woods. He just talked about it. He actually should be your nemesis, Larry, because you always talk about those people that say things, but they don't really mean them or don't actually do them. That was him.
I do hate Henry David Thoreau. It's well known.
Because of his stand against the Mexican-American War, or just in general?
In general.
Okay.
Yeah, well, back to the quote. I mean, he goes on to say further in that same quote or that excerpt, what everybody echoes as true today may turn out to be a falsehood tomorrow. And I have so many examples of that in my life. One that has no weight at all. But when I lived in Colorado, I used to have this mantra: I'm never going to live in California. I've lived in California for 14 years now. I think just being willing to try something.
Wait, is that a prejudice, though?
It was a prejudice against California based on not having really had an experience there. I think that's being from Texas, the 28th state in the union. You're born to hate Californians. I don't know why.
I didn't know that. I don't think Californians are born to hate Texans.
Well, that's a preconceived opinion that I gave up.
Huh. Well, I think right now, I mean, we're sort of in this. I've read these two books recently, one called Caste and one called White Fragility, about sort of just how to be white in America. I mean, I know Larry hates that term, but this idea that we're born with these prejudices that we don't even know we have. I think that's one thing is to say, oh, I don't like X thing, but now I've gotten to know them, and so therefore I do like them. That was a prejudice I had, and now I've gotten over it. The other one is when you have prejudices that you don't know you have. So the question was, can we get rid of prejudices? Of course we can. You moved to California, you love California. You didn't like X people, and now you have friends, and now you like them. So of course we can get rid of prejudices. I'm not sure that was what Thoreau was really trying to say, though. I think he was trying to look at the way people think. He was a philosopher, a transcendentalist, so he was all about changing the way people viewed the world. I think that's what he was getting at. Can we change our view of the world? I think that's much harder.
And I think also being more of an open person to accept your flaws versus I have a negative feeling towards this. Is it them or is it me? Or why do I feel that way? And I think a lot of people stop short of that and don't explore why they feel a certain way or why they dislike X, Y, or Z.
Well, I see that this is the problem. That's what both these books talk about, is that when you're born into a system, you think, well, that's just the way it is. This is the way it should be. It's supposed to be this way. So when you have these opinions that are so deeply held, I'm not sure you even can understand that they're prejudices, right? And I don't know what the answer to that is. I kind of resonates with me that we're born into a system that we have built-in prejudices that come from our parents or where we grew up or whatever.
I think, well, also, if you have an ability to be curious, which was the original title of your podcast, I'm just curious, like if you're always exploring why things are a certain way, then you can maybe identify them. Like you're reading these books, and I think White Fragility has been the #1 seller for the last few months because people are curious. And I don't think we can just say, identify all your prejudices and fix yourself. But I think if you just are constantly curious, and I think that's what this quote, I would encourage people to like take a look at your life from a more of a macro view to see what your beliefs are and always be trying to improve.
Yeah, I think also being willing to accept that you have these things that make you uncomfortable and rest in that discomfort.
I would move that prejudice is going extinct a little bit. I'm a big believer in Thomas Friedman's book, "The World is Flat." When the world was when the world was segregated, we didn't have the internet. People lived in the South, and they thought that's how everybody lived that way. And you thought because in the South you have to not like black people. But when you realize the world is bigger, the world becomes flatter, you realize that's not the way you have to live. For instance, I think, and this is the example I use, I think in the evangelical Christian church, they're very anti-gay. For some reason, they've grabbed onto that. They let people be poor all they want, but they really want to be against gay people. I think that will go away. The next generation that's growing up right now, that will not be an issue in the evangelical church, because once again, they're seeing a bigger context, that there are a lot more people out there. So I don't think prejudice ever is going to go away in general, but I think it's going to become a lot more as the world gets flatter and we see more of each other.
Well, what about, like, I'm going to push back on you there a little bit, Larry.
Hey, push back.
Yeah, push back moment. What about this idea? Do you think America is the greatest country in the world?
No.
You don't?
No,
because
I mean,
if you said to most people, it's like, is this the land where anyone can come and make a life? It's better than everywhere else to do that. That's why we're so great. Do you believe that?
Listen, I have a hard time when I see the American flag now, because I've learned a lot about slavery and the 1916 Project, and I've been studying, as my wife has, about the experience of Black America. And it's hard to say that this is the greatest country, because like anything, there's good and bad and all. And there's definitely was bad and good with this country. So I wouldn't say that. I would say something else.
I think it's a willingness to learn. I don't know. I think that's
absolutely. Absolutely.
I really like your flat earth thing. I didn't travel much until maybe 10 years ago, and going overseas just gives you perspective. Visit a third world country. Maybe don't do it right now during COVID-19, but just you get perspective on other people. Like if you don't like someone or you don't like something, maybe go talk to them. And I think that'll maybe help.
I would just take this a step further. If you don't like someone or something, go live next to them for 6 months and see if you then don't like them.
Yeah.
And be willing to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess to wrap it up with something funny I saw on Instagram is with the flat earthers, with all the social distancing going on, has anyone fallen off the edge?
Yeah, that's a whole nother, the fact that people can believe in things that are absolutely provable. That's a whole nother bizarre thing that I don't get.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk to those people and say it's never too late to give up your prejudices. If you guys have a post you'd like to further explore, please reach out. You can find us at Reposted Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Guys, check out How I Got That Way, at How I Got That Way on all the social media. I'm Andrew Keller for Brandon Doble and Flat Earther Larry Olson saying, thanks for stopping by.